Hi there, everybody. I'm Fred Thomas, and you are watching the 4th season of All Things Bike. And today we are speaking with Jesse Wall, the owner and the founder of TruStrength Athletics. Jesse, welcome to the show.
Hey, Fred. Thanks for having me. Appreciate
Anytime, anytime. Hey, well, give us a background on your athletic experience and how that led to setting up TruStrength.
So I grew up in a high school in Maine, pretty traditional in the 80s and 90s around traditional sports. So a lot of team sports, a lot of club sports,
right.
You know, your baseball, your basketball, your football, that type of stuff. And, you know, always loved those types of things. And it wasn't until I became, you know, in college and as an adult, exposed through traveling to getting outside of that small town or, you know, the traditional sports world. So skiing entered the picture, and then, you know, some more vertical sports stuff like in the mountains. That's when all of a sudden cycling actually became a sport on my radar, and running was thought of as a sport, not just part of a sport like chasing a ball. So there's, so my background extends through a lot of those things, and that's basically where I got my training start and background, was just this pursuit as an athlete to get better at some type of a goal, right? You need some type of plan, you need some type of road to figure out how that works out.
Right. And was there a single sort of moment of inspiration or an aha moment, like maybe an event or talking to somebody, or I mean, was there that flash of inspiration?
Yeah, actually, so in college, what was still pretty predominantly popular in the strength world, what we would consider strength world, is powerlifting and bodybuilding, and that's mostly all that people, you know, had as a visual. Now with the way media is and TV and YouTube and everything, we're exposed to so much different stuff. And I remember wanting to pursue the fitness field again, you know, as an adult, but I really had this drawback towards the roots of sports training and strength training in terms of athletic performance, right? Versus just lifting weights to look better, or lifting weights to lift more weights, and instead applying it and saying, like, how, you know, I want to use my fitness for something. And so that kind of became that big bang moment for TruStrength. Was we were going to be an athletic performance company, not just a gym, and that would set the stage for basically looking at human motion and human movement. Doesn't matter what that sport is. If it's moving and it's moving the body, we want to be a part of it and trying to figure out how to understand it and help people get better at it.
Yeah, that's great. Well, describe the facility. You've got a gym in Norway. You know, give us a sense of the atmosphere, the size. You know, what goes on there?
Yeah, so we just built a brand new facility last year. So we're 1 year in the brand new building. The business has been open. We'll be celebrating 10 years this spring. So we built a brand new location with the vote that happened recently and marijuana becoming legal. All large steel structures pretty much became triple in value for rent. So our lease didn't get renewed. It kind of got us pushed into a position of, well, what are we going to do? And so I put together some financing, and we just built a brand new facility, 7,000 square feet. You know, high ceilings, large steel warehouse structure. And for us, it's laid out with turf and black rubber matting. And for us, like in a traditional health club, you walk in and it's a maze of machines. For us, like I said, human movement is the priority. So for us, a lot of the space is actually pretty open because we tailor it to the hour or to the athlete or to whatever we're trying to accomplish. So most of our stuff is free weight, sometimes very odd object training, but we manipulate that space based on goals and based on what we're using it for in the moment.
That's great. And are screens allowed?
Yes, I mean, yes. People do, you know, they can use their phones and stuff, but honestly, there's nothing in our gym really where people have time to watch a screen. We don't have any TVs or anything like that. Like I said, it's all human motion. So,
so is there music, or is it, it's bright and it's got music? So, I mean, because there's so many sort of traditional perceptions of what a gym is, but yours is not a standard gym.
No, and so our facility also is twofold. We really push our coaching services, our ability to kind of understand sport and understand goals and human motion and figure out strength training. The other piece that we maintain is a private club of members that we limit to about 100. And we're a big team, we're a big community, and that's really goes towards the philosophy of TruStrength. And so we're open 24 hours to those members.
Wow.
And so the music is member driven. We don't always get along, you know, but for the most part, it's always really, you know, inspiring is the culture. You know, everyone's really working.
No, that's great. And just talk a little bit about the regularly scheduled programs that are there and available for people who might be interested.
Yep. You know, most of our programs are geared towards a strength base. So, and we can talk about that, I'm sure, but we view the foundation of what most athletes need first and foremost is one, correct movement patterns and mechanics, right? But an actual strength base. Everything else is built off of strength. A lot of times athletes try to start off with, you know, specialization or specialization moves, and we don't have the base, like the foundation for that. And so a lot of our programs are based in trying to get people to actually lift heavier weights for less reps, especially, you know, the first half of most of those programs, and teaching them why that's important, right? And then we do there is a lot of very high intensity stuff as well as people get conditioned towards it.
Right.
And again, it can be anything as non-traditional as swinging a sledgehammer on a tire and dragging huge sleds and things like that, all the way back to simple stuff that we've done forever. Right?
Yeah, no, that's great. I mean, we'll describe the athletes that are using the service and where they're from. Are they individual athletes or team members, and juniors, seniors? What's the demographic like?
So part of our philosophy is if you move your body, you're an athlete. So we have a full spectrum. A lot of times people find out about us and they go, well, I'm no professional athlete, so I probably don't belong there. I mean, we have guys like my father who at 65 ended a career working and then decided he was going to start strength training, you know. And
Never too late.
He's unbelievable, you know. But we work all the way up with, you know, Division I college athletes, you know, and semi-professional racers of different sorts. We definitely have the capabilities and set up for a professional athlete. But the meat and potatoes is, you know, guys like myself, guys like you, that really love what they do as a hobby of sport, where they use it for something, or they're looking for a culture of support and community, while really like trying to test their limits and figure out what they kind of made out of. We work with a lot of high school athletes, so specifically football programs, baseball programs, but then ski teams, rock climbers, stuff like that.
That's great. Well, I've always been curious. I mean, I go to the gym once a week, and I try to lift as much as I can. You know, I know nothing. I'm sure I will benefit from checking out your programs. But explain to us what's going on with the body physiologically when you start one of these programs and evolve towards that point where you're lifting a lot of weight. What's happening? I mean, why does it hurt so much?
Well, there's a couple of things going on there. I mean, in the short, without getting tied into all the science.
General terms, yeah.
Yeah, general terms. I mean, we're talking about a stimulus and adaptation, right? That's all we're really looking at is what stress can we apply to the body? That's why it hurts, right? Is that real true strength training and real true conditioning training, it has to be a stress. The body has to perceive it as a stress, so that there's a reason to change. And a lot of people that train with us, and they'll joke with me, they'll say, "Are you trying to kill me?" And I say, "No, I'm just trying to get you really close to death, but then I'm going to let you heal." Right. And that's the idea is that we want to produce a response from the body that says, well, I don't want that to ever happen, or if that happens again, I don't want to die. So I need to be stronger or faster or better. Right. And so that's kind of what's happening with the body, is that we're trying to break down fibers so that they can grow. And unfortunately, that's a misconception for a lot of people, is they end up trying to do too much all the time, and they don't do enough resting. So we're also big, you know, we're pro-rest, pro-sleep.
Right. I mean, that's a great way to avoid injury, because it's very easy to just lift too much and set yourself back. But give us, you know, a sense of a real sort of a workout. The duration, or how many reps we should do, the intensity. I mean, not in the sense of recommending it, but just a general, you know, sense of what a workout is, and include, you know, the equipment that you would sort of go to first.
Yeah. Well, when trying to understand any athlete's goals, so for,
Let's say a cyclist. Yeah,
yep,
we're talking about.
let's work it with a cyclist,
Yeah.
and we'll say you for instance.
Nice.
For what we want to look is we want to try to figure out when does Fred really want to be at his peak,
Right.
And we want to work backwards from that. And the more time we can get, the better. And so for cyclists, it's hard sometimes for them to prioritize when is going to be my off season. But it's really important because all training really comes in waves, right? And so at the beginning, a workout with us would look very different than 6 weeks out from when you really want to, be peaking for racing.
Right.
But in the beginning, let's say in a deep off season, since we're talking strength versus maybe specialization, we really want you to start looking at big compound lifts. What that means is, more than one muscle group, multi-joint, human motion that's natural. So maybe we start, since let's say things are really basic, we want to start with bilateral 2-leg squatting loaded with a barbell. We change that up week to week depending on what we need to do for stimulus and adaptation, but things like pushing a sled. And what a lot of, let's again go with cycling or endurance sport athletes have always been afraid of is, well, I don't want to lift too much because the misconception is I'll get either too big, too bulky, or too heavy. And it's because we kind of see that correlation usually on TV, or people that you meet that are really obsessed with the gym, are more into bodybuilding or powerlifting, or they might have that genetic type.
Yeah.
Guy like you with your frame, if we have you working in a range that with weights that make you fail, meaning you can't lift more than 5 times, we're actually going to stimulate a certain type of muscle fiber that actually is going to increase your force production capabilities. And that translates to biking immensely. So for a lot of people, what we want that workout to look like is basically changing the engine out of the car that you drove in with and putting a bigger engine in. And so we squat, maybe, there's warm up and stuff involved. We don't get into all the, but like a 5x5 traditional squatting program, or working, when we work with rock climbers or cyclists who especially don't want to have too much muscle tissue gain, we might work at 4 reps, a range that's maybe not as great as producing the highest strength capabilities, but also won't produce as much mass gain or tissue gain. And so we would start with those type of movements, and we'd address front and back. When we move a little bit closer, once we have the whole system addressed, like, okay, I'm strong with both legs, I'm strong when I'm balanced, let's attack the body more like cycling, single leg at a time. So we might do heavy weighted box step-ups with a barbell, reverse lunges off of pads that bring us way, much deeper than you'd ever extend through the motion in cycling. A lot of times we see closed positions on cyclists where their hip never reaches extension, it's never in deep flexion, hamstrings don't get stretched, things get super tight. And so when we're doing strength training, we want to really emphasize full range of motion and trying to wake up tissue in ranges that it doesn't get used on the bike, so that it's just healthier.
Right.
And so a typical session like that would last about an hour. About a half an hour, 30 minutes might be spent on just 2 or 3 lifts, just trying to do this slow strength work that we would try to increase every week so we know the engine in your car is actually getting bigger. It can produce more force. Then we would move into some accessory stuff to make sure that we've got the core balanced, because for a lot of athletes, it's just the chassis that connects the big engine to the other pieces. A lot of times there's a little break in that chain. And so we really want to allow them to harness that power and apply it to the bike or to running or to whatever they're working on.
Wow, that's great, Jesse. I mean, that's inspiring stuff. I mean, I think a lot of cyclists would be interested in hearing that because, a program like strength training, it's a great way I find, to break up the routine of training off season, and it gets you out of the basement or wherever your trainer is set up, and it sounds like it would really pay off. Here's another sort of a derivative of that is that, I go to the gym, I've been watching, the videos of your facility, and I see a lot of women who are now lifting weights. And when I was in college, that wasn't the case. It was the football team was in there, and half the workout was like moving the plates off and on the thing to share the squat with these guys. It seems to be over. I mean, why do you have any insight on why women are reaching for the weight training option?
I mean, there's a ton of reasons. I mean, the two easiest I can think of is one, what one of the things gained besides actually becoming physically stronger, performing better in the weight room, is a sense of empowerment, right? It's a sense of pushing yourself to find where I might fail at something and where I might achieve success through failing, right? And I think that reinvents who we are.
Yeah, really.
Right? It gives us a new form or self-discovery of, wow, I'm made of something way more than what other people may have thought I was or what I thought I was. And I think it's part of the movement of gender equality we're really pushing towards, is this idea that the story of exploration is really important for everyone. We shouldn't be pigeonholed into, well, you're a female, you shouldn't lift weights, you should be soft, or you should be weak, or men should be the ones doing that. Like, that's just crazy. Yeah. I mean, we have the other part being no point in history have we ever had such exposure, right? Like, really, the reason rock climbing has boomed and gyms have popped up everywhere is because kids can see it now. Yeah. And same thing with females weightlifting. We have the ability to watch all of these women coming out in different professional sports, but also in the weight room. And for us, I mean, in just our small community, they get to see we have a woman just this weekend competing nationals raw powerlifting, setting unbelievable records, and that's shareable now, right? So it's just it's able to say, hey, I can do this, and I look like you, and I'm from the town that you're from, and really I'm just like you. And I think that's a bond that people share, and I think it's just really inspiring.
Yeah, no, that's a great point. It's great news too. I mean, it's a whole new world, really, for a lot of athletes. But do you have any stories that sort of come to mind about an athlete who turned up and started doing some strength training and just saw their career reach the next level, or I don't know, they found new inspiration in what they were doing, or started doing something totally different? There must be some stories out there.
Yeah, well, that's the problem, is there's too many.
Too many, yeah. Of course, I thought you would say that.
And I could really unload, like I said again. Yeah. Miranda, who was just there at Raw Nationals, rediscovering that after a year of college, a career of college athletics, and then being away from college athletics and not kind of losing that piece of herself. We have stories of a good friend of mine that I coach at the gym as well, Sarah, who's now just earned her master's pro card in competing in figure competition. So two total opposite ends of the spectrums, but two females who've seen their lives just take off in total unbelievable directions. I think the biggest story that I like to talk about and that I'm most excited about is how we've used strength training in a community-based team approach. In this example, we're actually working with a team, which is our varsity football program, really trying to reshape the culture of not only the football program, but also the town around it. Right. As we've kind of progressed from the era of the 80s and the era of the 90s and what football kind of was like then. Right. Trying to reinvent the team and help them understand success through values as much as just raw strength. And I think the greatest success of anything that we see produced in our facility is this awakening of limits, awakening of self, and that it's not all about me, it's also about other people. Right. And so we've watched our football program, they struggled for, I think, about 12 or 13 years where the program really took a dive. Historically, it was really strong. And I think a lot of the kids just kind of lost their way and just things were happening. And we doubled down really hard. New coach came on, took the program over about 8 years ago, and brought our program in to redo the strength and conditioning. And you watch these kids work together, right? And they can, even the ones who don't have a position on the field, know that, like, I'm not the starter, I'm not the big star. They have a presence and a personality and a place of value in the weight room with their
because they're still working out in that sort of that equal open space, and they're not all wearing gears and helmets. And all that.
And it opens up chances for them and opportunities for them that they might not have the athletic prowess on the field, but they have natural strength or ability to be coached in the weight room, and they can be leaders in terms of morality and lead in terms of how they carry themselves in character. Yeah. And we've just watched that blossom, just this incredible wave of watching all these kids I
That's
just love
fantastic.
those relationships.
No, that's
It's
great.
unbelievable.
Yeah, I mean that's the 21st century gym, I guess, or athletic training facility. I mean, gym, brings up all those the old 20th century visions. But that's great, Jesse. It sounds like the team has got new confidence, and regardless of what the results are. At the games. Here's a question that it's the first thing I noticed when I looked at the website. You write the name of the company is TruStrength, but the T in strength is capitalized. So some people will see that and it'll read trust strength. The word trust is in there. What was the thinking behind that?
Yeah, so the T and then the S are both capitalized, and the reason really is purposeful. Is we want to talk about trying to capture what is true strength training, right? Like where is that conception? Because a lot of, again, like I said, cyclists will go in and maybe think, I'm doing strength training in the off season, I'm gonna do this for 20 reps. Well, we know that that's not gonna produce strength results. You're actually not gonna produce more force. And trying to shift that paradigm of thinking of lifting heavy weights is actually about performance, and it's about injury prevention, and it's about other things that's really important. Way beyond that, right? Once you have that base, you learn to trust yourself. I always try to teach my people that confidence comes from preparation.
Yeah, really. Yeah.
And so trust is that derivative of confidence, is that you learn to trust your strength because you've prepared for it, you've done the base work, you've done the things that you know you can stack other things upon. And to carry that a step further, our project, I hate to call it a business, because TruStrength Athletics really, it started as a project, it's continued as a community project. It really is about community relationships. It's about social relationships and patterns, and how that when you and I train together, Fred, and we push each other, we find a place to inspire each other. I have a new sense of trust for you. I have a new trust for myself, and a trust for my community, that I know that if I'm going through a divorce, if I'm going through cancer, if I've lost my job, I've got a network of people that have gone through hard things with me, and I know I can rely on. And so for us, like trust strength or TruStrength, is part of our message that we try to stand behind.
That's great. That's great, Jesse. Well, I mean, I think this is exciting stuff. I'm inspired. I'm ready. Where do I sign up? Yeah, well, that's a good question. I mean, how do people sign up if they wanted to join you?
Yeah, I mean, people. Most people get a hold of us through Google, through our webpage. And we mostly what they find there is an opportunity to do coaching with us. And so they can contact us through those positions. We do online coaching as well from a distance in case people can't come to the Norway facility. And then as far as membership goes, like I said, to be a team member, we do require a team referral. And that's partly about creating a space that, again, people trust. A lot of things that has turned people away from gyms in the past is when they come in, either the ogling or the mirror watching, or, the jockeying for position. And we just do not allow that. We don't have any mirrors at all in the facility, because we want people to focus on how they move, not how they look. We don't want to invite that relationship of, is he looking at me? Is she looking at me? I'm looking at you, looking at me. Versus, we just want to be there in the space together. And so we really kind of push that.
That's great. All right, Jesse. Well, look, I've got a whole bunch of questions about Iceland, but we're going to handle that separately, because we're going to have a great conversation about that. But thanks so much for coming in and talking to us about strength training. It's great stuff. And I look forward to hearing more about how the program develops.
Thanks, Fred. Appreciate it a lot.
All right, everybody, that was Jesse Wall, the owner and head coach at TruStrength Athletics. You can learn more about their facility and their service online. That's all we got time for right now. Thanks for watching. We'll see you again soon.
All Things Bike is brought to you by FitWorks, rider-first bike fitting, rider-matched bike sales. Locations in Peabody, Massachusetts, Waitsfield, Vermont, and Ridgefield Park, New Jersey. And Frame and Wheel, eBay selling services for cyclists, bike shops, and bicycle companies. Time, space, cash, pick 3. And AD Bikes, the modern face of Austro-Daimler cycling and the bike company of the future.